in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Many people are deceived not by lies, but by what looks true. They see wealth and assume honor. They see ease and assume Allah is pleased. They see hardship and assume Allah has abandoned someone. But appearances are not evidence. They are only the surface. And the surface has misled more people than any enemy ever could. Today, I will tell you a story that corrects the eye and puts the heart back in its place. It is the story of Bilal, a man chained on earth and raised in the heavens. Bilal was born into the harshness of the desert. He was an Abyssinian in a land that valued lineage and tribal blood above all else. He was the property of a man named Umayyah ibn Khalaf, a man whose heart was as hard as the stones of the Hijaz. In those days, Bilal's life was defined by the whip and the heat. He was a man in chains, his back scarred, his voice silenced. To the elite of Makkah, he was merely a tool, a piece of furniture that breathed. But then, a whisper began to circulate through the narrow alleys of the city, a message of a God who was one, a message brought by the prophet that we are all equal, that the master and the slave stand shoulder to shoulder before the Creator. This religion sought to start a revolution of justice and equal treatment for every soul. This message reached Bilal's heart, and for the first time in his life, he felt a chain break. Not the one on his wrists, but the one on his soul. When the elite of Makkah found that Bilal had turned his heart to the truth, they didn't try to convince him. They tried to break him. They dragged him out into the open, unforgiving heat. They pressed his body into the burning sand and placed a massive stone upon his chest. They used the only language the world of power knows, the language of force. And here is the point you must not miss. Bilal had no army behind him. He had no tribe to protect his name. He had no status to bargain for his life. If you had stood there, judging only by appearances, you would have looked at that scene and said, "This man has lost." But then, you hear what comes from his tongue. It wasn't a scream for mercy. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a verdict. Ahad. Ahad. One. He was declaring to the sky that Allah is one. And in that moment, the world saw a broken slave, but Allah saw a giant of a believer. The stone was heavy, but Bilal's soul was lighter than the clouds, because it was already flying toward heaven. Allah does not forget a single soul. Just as the light was fading from Bilal's eyes, Abu Bakr al-Siddiq walked across the sand and bought his freedom for a high price. Umayyah laughed as he took the money, saying, "If you had offered me a single coin, I would have sold him to you." But Abu Bakr replied with words that every one of us should remember. "By God, if you had asked for 100 times this price, I would have paid it. To you, he is worthless. To God, he is priceless." But the story is not only that Bilal was freed, it is about what happened after. Now picture this. The very man who was pinned to the dirt by a stone, the very man who was treated as inferior because of his skin and his origin, was now walking side by side with the Prophet of God, peace be upon him. When the Muslims returned to Makkah in victory, the Prophet, peace be upon him, needed a voice to call the faithful to prayer. And whose voice did he choose? Not a tribal leader, not a wealthy merchant. He chose Bilal. He was told to climb to the very top of the Kaaba, the most sacred house on earth. Picture the scene. The people who once tortured him now had to look up at him. The man they tried to bury in the sand was now standing above their heads, his voice soaring over the valley, calling them to success. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The slave had become the master of callers. The nobody had become the leader. Even the great Umar used to say, Abu Bakr is our master, and he freed our master, Bilal. He was raised not because the world changed its heart, but because Allah raises whom He wills. Honor is not in lineage. Honor is in truth. Bilal, the man who was treated as nothing, was chosen for something immense. He became the one handpicked by our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, as the one who calls people to prayer, the one who calls people to Allah. So what is the deception of appearances? It is when you judge your life by what you see and forget what Allah sees. It is when you assume hardship means rejection and ease means approval. Bilal teaches you this. You can be chained and still be free. You can be tested and still be chosen. You can be unseen by people, but remembered by Allah. While Bilal showed us that the humble can be raised, history tells us of those who were already at the peak, a people so powerful they carved mountains into homes, a civilization so grand they believed the wind itself couldn't move them. They looked at their towering pillars and their vast strength, and they thought one thing: this is permanent. Join me for the next lesson as we journey to the city of pillars. We will witness the rise and the sudden silence of a people who forgot that power, like the sand, can slip through your fingers in a single breath. This all on The Deception of Appearances, Part 2, When Power Looked Permanent. Until then, do not be impressed by what shines. Be impressed by what is true. Peace be upon you. Salams.